Filthy opportunist. You're a disgrace to this family." The mother-in-law's venomous words cut through the opulent southern estate as her hand cracks across the black female protagonist's face, a brutal slap echoing before stunned guests. Unbowed, the event-planning mogul, founder of Atlanta's premier event company, retorts softly, "Seems I'm no kin to this family," and strides away. For years she endured her in-laws' scorn, exclusion from family retreats, her career mocked as party tricks, her heritage dismissed. Yet this night, her defiance sparks a reckoning. Will her bold stand shatter a dynasty's facade? Join us to unravel this tale of betrayal and triumph. Hit subscribe to catch our latest stories and share in the comments where you're tuning in from. What secrets will this empty chair reveal? Stick around to find out. The chandelier's golden glow bathed the grand dining hall of the Carter estate, casting intricate shadows across the mahogany table that stretched like a silent judge. Crystal flutes clinked, and laughter, sharp, performative, rippled through the air. Selina Carter stood at the threshold, her emerald gown clinging to her frame, a beacon of elegance amidst the opulence. The southern night pressed against the tall windows, heavy with the scent of magnolias and unspoken truths. Tonight was George Carter's 75th Jubilee, a celebration Selina had orchestrated with meticulous care, yet the table before her held 12 velvet-clad chairs, and a glaring void where hers should have been. She scanned the room. Atlanta's elite mingled, their tailored suits and glittering jewels a testament to the Carter family's fading but formidable influence. Selina's pulse quickened, not from nerves, but from the dawning clarity of betrayal. Her eyes met Donna Carter's, her mother-in-law, seated at the table's head like a queen on her throne. Donna's smile was a blade, cold and precise, her diamond earrings catching the light as she raised her glass. "To George," she toasted, her voice honeyed, yet laced with menace. The guests echoed her, oblivious or complicit, as Selina stepped forward, her heels clicking against the polished oak floor. "Excuse me," Selina said, her tone measured, cutting through the din. Conversations faltered. "There seems to be a mistake. My seat is missing." The room stilled. George, weathered and silent, stared at his plate. Brandon, Selina's husband, shifted in his chair, his gaze fixed on the linen napkin in his lap. Donna's smile widened, a predator savoring the moment. "Oh, darling," she said, her words dripping with false sweetness. "We didn't prepare. Place for outsiders." The word landed like a whip. Guests exchanged glances, some uncomfortable, others amused. Selina's chest tightened, but her face remained a mask of composure. She had faced Donna's barbs before, subtle jabs at, her heritage, her career dismissed as frivolous. But this was different. This was public, deliberate, a calculated strike to sever her from the family she'd fought to join. "Seems I'm no kin to this family," Selina replied, her voice low but resonant, each syllable a defiance. The air thickened with tension. Brandon's head snapped up, his eyes pleading, but he said nothing. Donna's smile flickered, a crack in her armor. Selina turned, her gown whispering against the floor, and walked toward the double doors. Whispers erupted behind her, a chorus of speculation, but she didn't falter. Each step was a reclamation, a shedding of the weight she'd carried for 3 years. Outside, the night enveloped her. The estate's sprawling lawn stretched into darkness dotted with fireflies. Selina's breath steadied as she reached her car, a sleek black sedan parked beneath a willow. She slid into the driver's seat, the leather cool against her skin, and pulled out her phone. Her fingers moved with purpose, dialing the first of many contacts. "Marcus," she said when the caterer answered. "It's Selina. I need you to pull your team from the Carter event. Now." Her voice was calm, but inside a storm raged. She thought of the months spent planning this night, securing the estate, curating a menu of blackened shrimp and bourbon-glazed short ribs, hiring a jazz quartet to weave the soul of the South into the evening. Every detail bore her signature, her artistry as the founder of Lux Events. She had poured her heart into this, believing it could bridge the chasm between her and the Carters. Instead, they'd used her labor to stage her humiliation. Selena's mind drifted to her first encounter with Brandon, 4 years prior, at a gala she'd orchestrated for Atlanta's Children's Hospital. The ballroom had shimmered under her vision, chandeliers draped in ivy, tables adorned with orchids. Brandon, tall and charismatic, had approached her, his smile disarming. "You're the genius behind this?" he'd asked, gesturing to the transformed space. "My family needs someone like you." She'd been flattered, then enamored, mistaking his charm for acceptance. Their courtship had been a whirlwind, but the Carters' world, old money, older prejudices had never opened to her. Another call. "Lila, it's Selena. Cancel the quartet for tonight. Refund the deposit to my account." Her voice didn't waver, though her hands trembled slightly. She glanced at the estate, its windows glowing like eyes watching her rebellion. The Carters thought they'd broken her, that she'd slink away shamed. They underestimated her resolve, her network, and her power. As an event planner, Selena held the strings to their spectacle, and she was cutting them one by one. Shikai remembered the early days of Lux Events, bootstrapping her way through Atlanta's cutthroat social scene. A scholarship kid from a working-class neighborhood, she'd clawed her way to the top, earning the trust of the city's elite. Her reputation for flawless execution had made her indispensable, even to the Carters. Yet tonight, they'd reduced her to a prop in their narrative, a black woman to be used and discarded. The third call went to the wine vendor. "James, pull the cases. The Carters won't need them." Each cancellation was a brick in the wall she was building, a fortress against the family's cruelty. Selena leaned back, closing her eyes. She saw Donna's face triumphant and Brandon's silence, a betrayal sharper than any words. But she also saw herself, younger, hungrier, standing in her tiny apartment, vowing to make her mark. That fire still burned. Her phone buzzed. A text from Brandon. "Where are you? Come back. We can fix this." She ignored it. There was no fixing a family that scripted her erasure. Instead, she dialed her final contact, the estate manager. "Rebecca, shut down the auxiliary lighting and lock the secondary exits after the guests leave. The Carters' event ends tonight." Selena's gaze returned to the estate. The jazz quartet's absence would be noticed soon, followed by the caterer's withdrawal. The guests, sipping their last glasses of champagne, would whisper about the unraveling grandeur. Donna would rage, Brandon would scramble, but the damage would be done. Selena had dismantled their stage, and the spotlight would soon turn on. Their secrets? She started the car, the engine's hum a quiet promise. The road stretched ahead, leading away from the estate, from the family that had tried to diminish her. Selena's lips curved into a faint smile. "They wanted me gone," she murmured, her voice steady in the darkness. "But I'll make sure they never forget this night." The fireflies danced as she drove, each spark a testament to her defiance. The Carters had miscalculated, thinking her a pawn. Selena Carter was no one's piece to move. She was the architect of her own story, and tonight she'd begun to rewrite it. The Atlanta skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Selena Carter's Buckhead office, a sanctuary of sleek glass and polished walnut. She stood at her desk, surrounded by mood boards for an upcoming gala, her fingers tracing the edge of a swatch of midnight blue silk. The hum of the city below was a distant pulse, but inside, memories of her 3-year marriage to Brandon Carter churned like a gathering storm. Selena's gaze drifted to a framed photo on her desk, a candid shot from their wedding, her smile radiant, unaware of the thorns awaiting her in the Carter family's gilded world. The wedding had been a spectacle, a triumph of Selena's, craft as the founder of Lux Events. The venue, a historic plantation house draped in wisteria, had glowed under her direction. She'd chosen a gown of ivory lace, its bodice embroidered with delicate magnolias, a nod to her southern roots. Yet as she'd glided down the aisle, Donna Carter's voice had sliced through the organ's melody. "Far too bold for a bride." Donna had whispered to a cousin, loud enough for Selena to hear. The words stung, but Selena had lifted her, chin focusing on Brandon's warm gaze. She'd believed his love would shield her. Now, in her office, Selena's lips pressed into a thin line. That belief had been her first mistake. The Carters, with their sprawling estates and whispered lineage tied to cotton and railroads, had never seen her as family. Donna, the family's matriarch, had set the tone at their first meeting 6 months before the wedding. Over tea at the Carter mansion, Donna's eyes had raked over Selena's tailored blazer, her voice crisp. Our family doesn't have a tradition of embracing such diversity. The pause before diversity had been a blade, and Brandon, seated beside Selena, had only sipped his coffee, his silence a betrayal she hadn't yet named. Selena turned from the photo, her heels sinking into the plush rug as she paced. The Carters' rejection had been relentless, woven into every interaction. Family vacations to the Carolina coast came and went without an invitation for her. Just a small gathering, Donna would say, her smile tight, as Selena learned. Of the trips through Brandon's offhand mentions. Private dinners at the mansion, where Carter Group's financial strategies were debated, always had a reason to exclude her. Business matters, Richard, Brandon's father, would mutter, avoiding her gaze. Selena, who'd built a company that orchestrated Atlanta's most exclusive events, was relegated to an outsider in her marriage. Her career, too, became a target. Lux Events was a powerhouse, its logo synonymous with elegance and precision. Selena had transformed raw spaces into dreams, warehouses into starlit ballrooms, gardens into enchanted forests. Yet, at a charity auction she'd planned for the Carters, Donna had introduced her to guests as our little party planner, her tone dripping with condescension. She's so creative for someone from her background, Donna had added, her words a veiled jab at Selena's working-class upbringing. The guests had chuckled, and Brandon, standing nearby, had only squeezed Selena's hand, his face a mask of discomfort, but no defense. Selena paused by the window, the city's lights blurring as she recalled the slights piling up like stones. At a family brunch, her suggestion to modernize Carter Group's branding had been met with silence. Then Donna's dismissive, "You stick to your decorations, dear." When Selena hosted a dinner for Brandon's cousins, her carefully curated, "No, low country shrimp and grits with a twist of truffle oil," was praised until Donna remarked, "Charming, but we prefer tradition." Each dismissal chipped away at Selena's hope, yet she'd clung to the idea that her talent, her love for Brandon, could shift their hearts. A soft chime broke her reverie, a late email from a vendor for George's Jubilee. Selena's eyes narrowed as she opened it, revealing an unpaid invoice for the floral arrangements. Her mind flashed to other delays in Carter's payments over the past year. The wine supplier for a Carter gala had called her directly, asking about a missed deposit. The lighting crew for a corporate event had flagged a bounced check. Brandon had brushed off her concerns, claiming cash flow issues or accounting oversights. But the pattern was clear. The Carter empire, with its polished veneer, was fraying at the edges. Selena sank into her chair, the leather creaking softly. She'd ignored the signs, wanting to believe in Brandon's promises. "You're my home," he'd said on their first anniversary, his hands cupping her face. But home didn't feel like exclusion, like silence when she needed his voice. At a family gathering last summer, Donna had handed her a glass of sweet tea, saying, "You've done well for yourself, marrying up." The words had burned, and Brandon, within earshot, had only changed the subject, asking about golf. Selena had swallowed her hurt, telling herself not to take it personally, as he often urged. "That's just mother," he'd say, his shrug, a wall she couldn't breach. Now, alone in her office, Selena's fingers tightened around a pen. She'd poured herself into fitting into their world, softening her edges to ease their discomfort with her blackness, her ambition. She'd planned their events with unmatched brilliance, hoping her work would earn her a place at their table. Yet the memory of Donna's words, "our little party planner," echoed, a reminder that to them she was a tool, not a daughter-in-law. Selina stood, her reflection sharp in the window. The woman staring back was no longer the hopeful bride. She was the architect of her empire, a force who'd built Lux Events from nothing. The Carters had underestimated her, but she wouldn't underestimate herself. If they wanted her to play the outsider, she'd redefine the role on her terms. Her eyes fell to the wedding photo again, Brandon's arm around her, both of them, smiling under a canopy of stars she'd designed. Had she been fooling herself, believing she could belong to a family that saw her as less? The question lingered, heavy as the Atlanta night. Selina turned away, her resolve hardening. The Jubilee was her chance to prove her worth. But deep down, a whisper of doubt stirred. Would it ever be enough? The morning sun filtered through, the blinds of Selina Carter's home office casting slanted shadows across her desk. A week before George Carter's Jubilee, the air hummed with the quiet tension of deadlines. Selina sat before a spreadsheet, finalizing vendor payments for the event, her fingers poised over the keyboard. The scent of her jasmine tea lingered, a fleeting comfort in a house that felt less like home each day. Her husband, Brandon, had left early for a meeting, his laptop abandoned on the coffee table, a rare oversight that would change everything. Selina's gaze drifted to the device, its sleek silver frame glinting under the light. She'd never pried into Brandon's affairs, respecting the boundaries he'd drawn with a smile and a kiss. But something, an instinct, a whisper of unease, urged her to act. She crossed the room, her bare feet silent on the hardwood, and opened the laptop. The screen flickered to life, revealing a folder labeled Legal. Her heart thudded as she clicked, uncovering a document titled Carter Divorce Draft. The words blurred at first, each line a dagger. The draft, authored by the Carter family's attorney under Donna's direction, outlined a plan to dissolve the undesirable marriage with Selina. It proposed a meager settlement, barely a fraction of what she deserved, and included a timeline. The announcement would come at the Jubilee, framed as a mutual decision. Selina's breath caught, but her hands steadied as she scrolled, photographing each page with her phone. The betrayal was stark, clinical, a script to erase her. Then a file caught her eye, a Zoom recording, time-stamped 2 weeks prior. Selina hesitated, her finger hovering over the play button. She pressed it and Donna's voice filled the room, cold and commanding. The girl needs to understand her place and leave quietly. The Jubilee will be the perfect stage to push her out. Murmurs of agreement followed, Brandon's among them, faint but unmistakable. We'll make it look like her choice, he said, his tone detached. The recording cut off, leaving Selina in a silence that roared. She closed the laptop, her pulse racing, but her mind sharpening. The Carters hadn't just planned her humiliation, they'd choreographed her exit. Yet Selina felt no tears, only a blazing clarity. She returned to her desk, opening her laptop to begin her counterstrike. Her years at Lux Events had taught her the power of connections, and now those alliances would be her arsenal. Selina's first call was to Marcus, her trusted caterer. I need you to pull out of the Carter Jubilee, she said, her voice even. Cite a scheduling conflict and refund my deposit. Marcus, loyal after years of collaboration, agreed without question. Next, she contacted Lila, the jazz quartet's manager. Cancel the performance, I'll handle the fallout. Lila's surprise was audible, but she complied. With each call, Selina's resolve grew, her fingers moving swiftly as she emailed the wine vendor and florist instructing them to halt deliveries. The Jubilee, her masterpiece, would unravel at her command. But Selina knew this was only the beginning. The Carters' betrayal ran deeper than a public slight. Opening her secure cloud drive, she uploaded the divorce draft photos, then turned to Brandon's email. Still logged in on the laptop, a quick search revealed a trail of correspondence, messages between Brandon, Donna, and the family's accountant. They detailed offshore accounts, unreported assets, and loans taken to prop up Carter Group's crumbling facade. One email from Donna was blunt. Move the funds before the regulators notice. The girl mustn't know. Selena's jaw tightened. She archived the emails, forwarding copies to her private account. Her phone buzzed, a reminder for a lunch meeting. Selena glanced at the time, then dialed Maya, a journalist at the Atlanta Chronicle, and a friend from her early days in the industry. They met at a tucked-away cafe in Midtown, its walls lined with local art. Maya, her braids swept into a high bun, leaned forward as Selena slid a USB drive across the table. "Financial records," Selena said, her voice low. "Carter Group's been hiding assets. I need you to expose them, timed with the Jubilee." Maya's eyes widened, scanning. "Drive. This is dynamite, Selena. You're sure? This could bring them down." "I'm sure," Selena replied, her gaze unwavering. "They planned to bury me. I'm just returning the favor." Maya nodded, pocketing the drive. "You're playing a dangerous game, but I've got your back." Back home, Selena paced. Her office, the weight of her actions settling in. She wasn't just dismantling a party. She was challenging a dynasty. The Carters' wealth, their influence, had shielded them for generations. But Selena's evidence, bank statements, emails, the divorce draft, could crack that armor. Yet doubt flickered. Would exposing them taint her reputation? Lux Events thrived on discretion, and this move was anything but subtle. She pushed the thought aside. The Carters had left her no choice. Selena opened her closet, pulling out the red gown she'd chosen for the Jubilee. Its silk shimmered, bold and unapologetic, a stark contrast to the muted tones Donna favored. She held it up, imagining the moment she'd walk into that dining hall, not as a victim, but as a force. The dress was her armor, a declaration of her refusal to fade. She hung it carefully, then returned to her desk, pulling up the Jubilee's seating chart. Her name was there, a cruel taunt, but she knew now it was a lie. Her thoughts churned. The recording echoed in her mind, Brandon's voice, complicit, sealing her fate. She'd loved him, believed in him, but he'd chosen his family's script over her. Selena's fingers hovered over her phone, tempted to confront him, but she stopped. Words wouldn't undo their plan. Action would. She drafted an email to the estate manager, confirming her authority to cancel ancillary services, then sent it. The stage was set. As dusk fell, Selena stood by her window, the city's lights a constellation of possibilities. She was no longer the woman who'd hoped for acceptance. The Carters had underestimated her, but she'd built an empire on her terms. Now she'd use that power to rewrite their story. The Jubilee was days away, and Selena Carter was ready to turn their triumph into her reckoning. The Carter estate pulsed with the illusion of grandeur, its chandelier casting a warm veneer over the dining hall where Atlanta's elite gathered. The long mahogany table gleamed, but the absence of servers, the silence where jazz should have played, and the empty wine glasses hinted at a fracture in the evening's perfection. Selena Carter had engineered this chaos. And now, as the clock struck 8, she stood poised to witness its crescendo. Outside, the southern night draped the lawn in velvet darkness, but inside, the air crackled with unease. Selena lingered in the foyer, her crimson gown a defiant flame against the muted elegance of the estate. She'd arrived early, as any event planner would, to ensure her cancellations had taken root. The caterers had withdrawn, the quartet had packed up, and the wine vendor had recalled his cases, all at her command. Her phone buzzed with a notification from the Atlanta Chronicle. Maya's exposé, Carter Group faces fraud allegations, had just hit the front page. Selena's lips curved slightly. The stage was set. She stepped into the hall, her heels echoing on the oak floor. Heads turned. Senators, philanthropists, old money scions, their murmurs faltering as they registered her presence. Donna Carter, regal at the table's head, froze mid-toast, her champagne flute suspended. Brandon's eyes widened, a flicker of panic betraying his polished facade. George, the evening's honoree, stared blankly, as if sensing the storm. Selena's gaze swept the room, cataloging the faces, some curious, others smug, all unaware of the unraveling about to unfold. "Selena, dear," Donna called, her voice a syrupy mask. "Join us when you're ready." The invitation was hollow, a performance for the guests. Selena knew her seat didn't exist, a truth confirmed by the 12 chairs circling the table like a closed fortress. She moved forward, her posture unyielding, the silk of her gown whispering with each step. The crowd parted, their whispers a low hum as if sensing the gravity of her approach. The first crack appeared when a guest, a silver-haired banker, frowned at his empty glass. "Where's the wine?" he muttered, loud enough to draw eyes. Another, a councilwoman, tapped her phone, her brow furrowing as she skimmed the Chronicle's headline. Selena caught the moment, her pulse quickening. The article detailed Carter Group's hidden debts, offshore accounts, and questionable loans, secrets she'd unearthed and handed to Maya. The guests' murmurs grew, a tide of doubt swelling. Donna signaled a waiter, only to find none present. Her smile tightened as she rose, addressing the room. "A minor delay, nothing more. Please enjoy the evening." But the absence of food, the silence where music should have soared, betrayed her. Selena stood near the table, her presence a silent challenge. Brandon leaned toward his mother, whispering urgently, but Donna's eyes locked on Selena, a predator sizing up prey. "Is something wrong?" Selena asked, her voice clear, cutting through the tension. The guests stilled, sensing a confrontation. Donna's laugh was sharp, a blade cloaked in charm. "Wrong? Only your timing, dear. This is a family affair." The word family landed like a gauntlet, and Selena felt the weight of every eye, some pitying, others gleeful, pinning her in place. Then, chaos erupted. A guest gasped, holding up her phone. "The Chronicle says Carter Group's under investigation." The room buzzed as others checked their devices, the article's accusations spreading like wildfire. Donna's composure faltered, her hand gripping the table's edge. Brandon stood, his face ashen, scanning the crowd as if searching for an escape. Selena remained still, her expression serene but her heart racing. This was her symphony, and she was the conductor. Donna rounded the table, her emerald dress shimmering with each furious step. She stopped inches from Selena, her voice a hiss meant for her alone. "You think you can ruin us?" Before Selena could respond, Donna's hand lashed out, the slap resounding like a gunshot. The crowd gasped, frozen in shock. Selena's cheek burned, but she didn't flinch. Her eyes blazing with defiance met Donna's. "I learned from you, Donna," Selena said, her voice steady, resonant. "Tonight, I just rewrote your ending." The words hung in the air, a declaration that shifted the room's gravity. Guests whispered, some clutching pearls, others tapping furiously at their phones. Donna's face contorted, rage warring with disbelief. Brandon stepped forward, his hand outstretched, but Selena's glare stopped him cold. She turned, her gown a cascade of fire, and walked toward the doors. The crowd parted again, their murmurs now a roar. Selena's mind replayed the slap, the sting a badge of her rebellion. She'd expected resistance, but Donna's violence had been a miscalculation, a public unraveling of the Carter mystique. Outside, the night air was cool, the stars sharp against the inky sky. Selena paused on the steps, her breath steadying, as she absorbed the magnitude of her stand. Her phone vibrated, texts from vendors confirming cancellations, a message from Maya. "It's blowing up." "You did it." Selena's fingers hovered over Brandon's name, his earlier plea to return flashing in her mind. She silenced the device, slipping it into her clutch. The Carters had scripted her exit, but she'd torn their playbook apart. The Jubilee, meant to be their triumph, was now their reckoning. Behind her, the estate's lights flickered, a sign of the auxiliary systems shutting down as she'd instructed. Selena imagined the scene inside, Donna scrambling to salvage, her dignity, Brandon fielding questions from panicked guests, George retreating into silence. The Chronicle's expose would dominate headlines by morning, its details, sourced from Selena's evidence, exposing the Carters' financial house of cards. Their empire, built on secrets, was crumbling under the weight of truth. Selena descended the steps, her heels clicking with purpose. The gravel crunched underfoot as she reached her car, its black frame a shadow in the moonlight. She slid inside, the leather seat grounding her. The engine roared to life, a low growl that matched her resolve. As she pulled away, the estate shrank in her rearview mirror, its glow fading like a dying star. The road stretched into the night, winding through the Georgia countryside. Selena's thoughts were clear, unclouded by regret. She'd given the Carters her best, her talent, her loyalty, only to be cast aside. Now she'd reclaimed her power, not with tears, but with precision. The slap had been their mistake. Her response, her victory. She flicked on the radio, a blues riff filling the car, its mournful notes a contrast to her quiet triumph. Selena Carter had walked into that hall as their pawn. She'd left as their judge. The night was hers, and the Carters would never forget it. The Atlanta skyline shimmered under a bruised dusk, its lights a defiant contrast to the storm that had engulfed the Carter family. 1 week after the ill-fated Jubilee, Selena Carter stood in her new Midtown apartment, its bare walls a canvas for her reinvention. Boxes of her belongings, carefully curated art, leather-bound journals, silk scarves, lay scattered, each a testament to her severance from the Carter mansion. The air smelled of fresh paint and possibility, but Selena's gaze was fixed on her laptop where headlines blazed. Carter Group reels amid fraud scandal. Donna Carter steps down from charity board, her lips pressed into a resolute line. The empire she'd exposed was fracturing, and she was its architect. Selena moved to the window, the city's pulse thrumming below. The Atlanta Chronicle's exposé, fueled by her evidence, had ignited a firestorm. Investors were pulling, funds, regulators circling, and the Carter name, once synonymous with untouchable Southern prestige, now fodder for gossip at country clubs and boardrooms. She'd anticipated the fallout, but its speed was staggering. Donna's public slap, meant to humiliate, had backfired, becoming the scandal's lurid centerpiece. Social media buzzed with blurry photos from the night, capturing Selena's unyielding stance, her crimson gown a beacon of defiance. Her phone vibrated, a text from her lawyer, confirming the divorce petition's filing. Selena had acted swiftly, attaching the damning divorce draft and financial records she'd uncovered. The documents painted a clear picture. Brandon and his family had conspired to discard her, hiding assets to minimize her settlement. Her lawyer's email was blunt. They won't contest. Too much to lose. Selena exhaled, a weightlifter. She'd fought not for vengeance but for freedom, and the papers were her first step. A knock at the door jolted her. Selena smoothed her cashmere sweater, bracing herself. She opened it to find Brandon, his usual polish replaced by a haggard edge, dark circles under his eyes, shirt slightly wrinkled. "Selena," he said, his voice raw. "We need to talk." She stepped aside, gesturing to the sparse living. "Jimmy," he entered, his gaze darting over the boxes as if searching for traces of their shared life. "There's nothing to fix," Selena said, preempting his plea. Her tone was calm, but her eyes were steel. Brandon sank onto a folding chair, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "You've destroyed us," he said, his words heavy with accusation. "The company's bleeding clients. Mother's a pariah, father's talking bankruptcy." Selena crossed her arms, unmoved. "That's a Carter problem, Brandon, not mine." She leaned against the counter, her posture a quiet assertion of control. "You plan to humiliate me, to erase me. I just let the truth speak." Brandon's face crumpled, a mix of guilt and desperation. "I didn't want it to end like this. I love you, Selena. Come back. We can rebuild." His voice cracked. But Selena saw the hollowness in his words, the same empty promises that had kept her tethered to his silence for years. She stepped closer, her voice low but piercing. "Love doesn't conspire behind closed doors. It doesn't stay silent. When your mother calls me an outsider, I don't need your name or your mansion anymore." Her words were a blade, precise and final. Brandon flinched, his shoulders sagging. "You'll regret this," he muttered. but the threat lacked conviction. He stood, casting one last glance around the apartment, then left, the door clicking shut like a period at the end of their story. Selina turned back to the window, the city's lights grounding her. The confrontation had been inevitable, but its brevity surprised her. Brandon's desperation was a shadow of the man she'd once loved, a man who'd chosen his family's legacy over her heart. She felt no triumph, only a quiet clarity. The Jew. Carter's had underestimated her, and now they paid the price. Her phone buzzed again, a news alert. Donna Carter cancels annual gala amid financial woes. Selina's mind flashed to Donna's imperious demeanor, her diamond-clad confidence shattered by the scandal. She'd tried to salvage her reputation with a press conference, but reporters, armed with Maya's article, had dismantled her defenses. A viral clip showed Donna stammering as a journalist asked about offshore accounts, her face a mask of barely concealed panic. Selina allowed herself a fleeting smile. The matriarch's fall was poetic, a mirror to the slap she'd delivered. She crossed to a box labeled Art, unpacking a vibrant canvas of a black woman in a sunflower field, her face tilted toward the sky. Selina hung it above the fireplace, its bold strokes a declaration of her new chapter. This apartment, smaller than the Carter mansion, was hers, paid for with Lux Events profits, untainted by their wealth. She arranged a few more pieces, a ceramic vase from a local market, a woven throw in burnt orange. Each choice was a stitch in the fabric of her independence. A memory surfaced, Donna's voice at a family dinner dismissing Selina's suggestion to diversify Carter Group's investments. "You're out of your depth, dear," she'd said, her smile venomous. Now, as the company teetered, Selina's foresight felt like vindication. She opened her laptop, checking Lux Events' inbox. New inquiries flooded in, clients drawn by her reputation and, perhaps, the scandal's allure. A senator's aide requested a quote for a fundraiser. A tech mogul wanted a destination wedding. Selina's business was thriving, a phoenix rising from the Carter's ashes. Her thoughts turned to the future. The divorce would finalize soon, her terms unchallenged. The evidence she held, emails, bank records, ensured the Carters wouldn't dare retaliate. Selina closed her laptop, moving to the kitchen to pour a glass of Merlot. The wine's deep ruby hue reminded her of her gown from that night, a symbol of her refusal to bend. She sipped, savoring the quiet of her new space. Outside, Atlanta buzzed, oblivious to the seismic shift in Selina's world. She'd walked away from a family that saw her as lesser, and in doing so, reclaimed her worth. The Carters' downfall was their own making. She'd merely lit the fuse. As she stood by the window, the city sprawling before her, Selina felt the stirrings of something new. Not anger, not sorrow, but hope. This apartment, this life, was hers to shape. The Carters had tried to break her, but she was whole, unbroken, and free. The Atlanta spring unfurled in bursts of azalea and dogwood, a vibrant backdrop to Selina Carter's ascent. 3 months after the Carter family's public unraveling, her midtown apartment hummed with life. Its walls now adorned with bold art, its shelves lined with books and awards from Lux Events. Selina stood at her kitchen counter, reviewing a contract for a high-profile international summit in New York, her pen tapping rhythmically. The city's morning buzz filtered through her open window, a reminder of the world she was reshaping. Her phone glowed with notifications, client inquiries, a podcast interview request, and a confirmation for her keynote at the Women of Color in Power conference. Selina's lips curved into a quiet smile. She was no longer the Carters' outcast. She was a force reborn. Lux Events had surged, its reputation bolstered by Selina's deft handling of the scandal's aftermath. Clients drawn to her integrity and the buzz of her defiance flooded her inbox. A tech heiress booked her for a Miami yacht gala. A museum director hired her for a centennial celebration. Selina's team, once a lean trio, now bustled with new hires, their office a hive of creativity. She'd secured a contract to orchestrate a global women's leadership summit in Manhattan, a coup that promised to elevate her brand worldwide. Each deal was a brick in the empire she'd built, untainted by the Carter's shadow. Selena crossed to her desk, where a draft of her conference speech lay. The keynote, titled "Reclaiming the Table," was a distillation of her journey. Her words sharp, raw, meant to ignite. She scanned a passage. "They thought a chair defined my worth. I built my table." Her fingers traced the page, her mind replaying the night she'd walked away from the Carter estate. That moment had cracked her open, but from the fissure, strength had grown. She'd shed the need for their approval, embracing her power instead. Her thoughts were interrupted by a news alert. Brandon Carter exits family firm amid restructuring. Selena's brow lifted, unsurprised. The Carter Group, battered by investigations, had lost key contracts, its boardroom a revolving door of resignations. Brandon, once the golden heir, had fled Atlanta, his LinkedIn profile now listing a vague consultancy role in Charlotte. Donna, the family's iron matriarch, had retreated from public view, her Buckhead mansion listed for sale to settle debts. Gossip swirled at Atlanta's galas, painting her as a cautionary tale of hubris. Selena felt no glee, only a detached acknowledgement. Their fall was their own. Her rise was hers. She turned to her closet, selecting a tailored white blazer for the conference. The crisp fabric felt like armor, a nod to the woman she'd become. As she dressed, her phone rang. Lila, a childhood friend, her voice tentative. "Selena, I saw the headlines. You didn't have to burn their world down." The words stung, echoing whispers from others who'd called her ruthless. Selena paused, her reflection steady in the mirror. "I didn't burn anything," she said, her tone even. "I opened the curtains. The fire was already there." Lila sighed, unconvinced, but Selena stood firm. She'd chosen truth over silence, and the cost was worth it. Later that day, Selena met Maya at a rooftop bistro, its view sprawling over Atlanta's skyline. Maya, now a senior editor at the Chronicle, raised a glass of Prosecco. "To you, Selena, you turned their script into kindling." Her braids caught the sunlight, her grin infectious. Selena clinked her glass, warmth spreading through her. "To us," she corrected. "You gave the truth a megaphone." They laughed, trading stories of their early struggles. Two black women carving paths in a city that often tried to box them in. Maya's expose had been the spark, but Selena's evidence had been the fuel, a partnership that rewrote the Carters' narrative. As the sun dipped, Selena's thoughts turned to the conference. She'd practiced her speech in her apartment, pacing before her sunlit windows, refining each line. The words weren't just for the audience, they were for her younger self, the girl who'd fought for a seat at tables that never wanted her. She'd speak of resilience, of the power in refusing to shrink. The invitation to keynote had come unexpectedly, a nod to her growing influence, and Selena saw it as a platform to amplify her story. Back home, she packed for New York, folding the white blazer alongside a sapphire gown for the summit's gala. Her suitcase was light, unburdened by the weight of her past. The Carter's name no longer haunted her. It was a footnote fading with each step she took. Selena's mind flickered to Donna's final public appearance, a grainy photo of her dodging reporters outside a courthouse. The image stirred no pity, only a reminder of the cost of cruelty. She sat at her desk, reviewing the summit's logistics. Lux Events' logo would grace the event's banners, a milestone she'd once dreamed of. Her team had designed a stage with cascading orchids and LED screens, a blend of elegance and innovation. Selena's vision, bold, unapologetic, would shine before global leaders. She leaned back, her gaze drifting to a small sculpture on her. The bronze figure of a woman, head high, arms outstretched. A gift from her mother, it symbolized the strength Selena had always carried, now fully realized. Her phone buzzed, a message from the conference organizer confirming her slot. Selena replied, then opened her speech again, reading aloud. "They offered me a chair, then took it away. I learned I didn't need their table." Her voice filled the room, steady and clear. She was ready, not just for New York, but for the life she was building. one choice at a time. As night fell, Selena stood on her balcony, Atlanta's lights a tapestry below. The city had seen her rise, her fall, and now her rebirth. She was no longer defined by the Carters' rejection, but by her creation. The conference loomed, a chance to claim her place among the powerful, to speak her truth. Selena Carter was no one's shadow. She was the light, and she was just beginning to shine. The Manhattan skyline sparkled like a crown, its towers piercing the velvet night as Selena Carter stepped onto the stage of the Women of Color and Power conference. The grand ballroom, a cathedral of crystal and gold, thrummed with anticipation. 500 attendees, activists, CEOs, artists, leaned forward, their eyes locked on Selena, her white blazer a beacon under the spotlights. Her sapphire gown for the gala waited backstage, but now, in this moment, she was a storyteller. Her voice poised to weave a narrative of defiance and triumph. The air crackled with expectation, and Selena felt it, a current of possibility, hers to command. She adjusted the microphone, her breath steady. "They offered me a chair," she began, her words clear, resonant, then snatched it away, thinking it would break me. The audience stilled, drawn into her cadence. Selena's gaze swept the room, connecting with faces that mirrored her own. Brown, black, resilient. "But I didn't beg for their table. I built my own." A murmur of approval rippled through, the crowd swelling into applause as she recounted her journey. A black woman from Atlanta's fringes, rising to helm Lux Events, only to face a family's calculated rejection. She spoke of the Jubilee, the slap that echoed, and the truth she'd unleashed, her voice a blade tempered by grace. Selena paused, letting the silence amplify her words. "Freedom isn't given," she said, her eyes alight. "It's claimed." The room erupted, a standing ovation that shook the chandeliers. She stepped back, heart pounding, as the moderator rushed to her side, beaming. Backstage, organizers pressed business cards into her hands. Invitations to speak in London, consult in Dubai. Selena nodded, her mind already mapping the future. The summit's gala, orchestrated by her team, unfolded flawlessly. Orchid-draped. Tables? A jazz trio's soulful hum, LED screens pulsing with her vision. Lux Events logo gleamed, a seal of her ascendance. 2 weeks later, Selena hosted a gathering in her Atlanta apartment, its warm glow a stark contrast to the Carter estate's cold opulence. Maya, her journalist ally, arrived with a bottle of Pinot Noir, her laughter filling the room. Colleagues from Lux Events mingled, their chatter punctuated by clinking glasses. Selena, in a flowing ochre dress, raised a toast. "To empty chairs," she said, her voice rich with meaning. "And the tables we build ourselves." The group cheered, and Maya whispered, "You're unstoppable." Selena smiled, feeling the truth of it. This was her circle, chosen, not inherited. Her phone buzzed, a news snippet. Carter Group sold to rival firm. Donna, once Atlanta's untouchable matriarch, had vanished from the social scene, her charity boards now led by others. Brandon's engagement to a new partner had flickered briefly in gossip columns, a footnote to their faded dynasty. Selena felt no sting, only a quiet release. The Carters were ghosts, their influence dissolved in the wake of her truth. She'd sent no message, no gesture to their new lives. Her focus was forward, not back. The night deepened, and Selena stepped. Onto her balcony, the city's lights a mosaic of dreams. Her divorce, finalized weeks ago, had been clean, her terms unchallenged. The evidence she'd held, those damning emails and records, remained with her lawyer, a silent shield. Lux Events thrived, its calendar booked with global contracts, including a Paris Fashion Week event she'd pitch next month. Selena's ambition, once tempered to fit the Carters' world, now burned unbound. A memory surfaced, not of the Jubilee, but of a quieter moment, years ago, when her mother had pressed a small journal into her hands. "Write your own story," she'd said, her voice fierce with love. Selena had, and this chapter, her rebirth, was her proudest. She'd spoken at the conference not just for herself, but for every woman told to shrink, to wait, to beg. Her words had sparked emails from attendees, young professionals who saw her as a beacon. One, a law student, wrote, "You made me believe I can demand my place." Selena had saved that message, a reminder of her ripple effect. Her thoughts shifted to Europe, where she'd soon stand on a cliffside terrace, orchestrating a couture showcase. The image, sea breeze, Paris's elite, her vision in bloom, felt like destiny. Selena's phone lit up, a text from the Paris organizer confirming her flight. She replied, then leaned against the balcony railing, the night air cool on her skin. Atlanta, her crucible, had forged her, but the world was her canvas now. She recalled the conference's closing moments, when an elder activist had grasped her hand, whispering, "You've lit a fire, child." Selena had felt it then, the weight and gift of her story. She wasn't just an event planner or a scorned wife, she was a catalyst, her defiance a spark for others. The Carters had sought to dim her, but their rejection had only sharpened her light. Back inside, the party wound down, friends departing with hugs and promises to meet again. Selena cleared the glasses, her movements deliberate, savoring the quiet. She paused by the bronze sculpture on her shelf, a woman, arms wide, unbowed. It anchored her, a symbol of the strength she'd always carried, now fully claimed. The Carters' table, with its missing chair, was a distant echo. Selena's table was here, vibrant, hers. She poured a final glass of wine, its ruby depths catching the lamplight. Raising it to the empty room, she toasted silently. To the girl who'd dreamed, the woman who'd fought, the future she'd seize. Selena Carter had once sought a place among those who spurned her. Now she stood at the head of her feast, and the world was taking notice. Thank you for joining us on Selena Carter's unforgettable journey in the empty chair at the Jubilee. Her story of resilience, defiance, and triumph over betrayal is one we hope resonates deeply. What did you think of Selena's bold stand? Did her courage inspire you, or perhaps spark memories of your battles for respect? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear how this tale touched you and where you're tuning in from. Your voices make our community vibrant, so don't hold back. A huge thank you for being part of this experience. Your support fuels our storytelling. If you haven't already, hit subscribe to catch our next tale of strength and transformation. Till then, keep claiming your table, and we'll see you soon for another story that stirs the soul. Stay bold, stay true,